Along with the good, redemption is another theme that's prevalent in throughout Tolkien's works. And it is this notion that all things are capable. They have the possibility, the chance to be redeemed. And that ultimately it's up to those things or persons themselves as agents with free will to decide whether or not they're going to allow themselves to be redeemed. And you see a variety of examples of this. And admittedly, in many cases in Tolkien's work, redemption's not always taken, right? It's not always accepted, but it is presented as a real choice. The key example of this is, of course, Gollum / Smeagol, right? The hobbit-like creature who held onto the ring for 500 years before losing it sort of in a riddle contest with Bilbo Baggins. When Gandalf and Frodo are discussing very early on, I think it's in chapter 2 of Fellowship of the Ring, Shadows of the Past, and they're talking about the history of the ring and how it's come about and all these things, and Frodo finds out that this ring was the ring and that Gollum had it and all of these things. Frodo says it's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him, right? When he finds out all the trouble that he's caused, that Gollum's now the one who's told Sauron who has the ring, that the ring is still around. And Frodo says it's a pity Bilbo didn't stab him when he had the chance. And Gandalf responds that it was pity which stayed Bilbo's hand, and that Gollum will have some role to play in all of this, whether for good or for ill. Gandalf presents this as a real possibility that Gollum will do something intentionally good. Right? And so we see as we follow Gollum along, as he appears then to lead Sam and Frodo to Mordor, that he himself is having this conflict. It's actually really interesting how Peter Jackson and company did that in the film version, where it's a masterwork of cinematography because it's just one shot of Andy Serkis the entire time. But because they change the angle of the camera, it looks like he's standing on two different sides, but it's literally just a straight shot of Serkis doing all of that dialogue just back to back. As two completely separate persons, they really highlight this kind of schizophrenic or dissociative disorder part of Gollum that's kind of latent in Tolkien's original text. But the whole point in all of this is that Gollum is at war with himself. And that comes to a head when he's already planned that he's going to deliver them to Shelob, this giant spider monster. And he's going to kill Sam, because he hates him. But he won't kill the master, right, because he swore he wouldn't. He'll just let the giant spider lady do it. And yet he sees Frodo sleeping. And the narrator in the text, Tolkien describes it. So if you were to come upon this, it would look like an elderly hobbit gently stroking the face of like their grandchild. It's such a tender moment, which is then somewhat unfortunately ruined by Sam waking up and freaking out because Gollum's pawing at Master and all these things. And we can't fully blame that on Sam. Again, Gollum has already planned to deliver them to deliver Frodo to Shelob and to kill Sam for himself. But in that moment, we see that kind of there but for the grace of God go I, right? That moment of maybe it could have all turned around, right? Maybe if Gollum had made some different choices somewhere along the line, this could have been the moment where it changed. And it didn't. Right? He did not take that opportunity. He chose to remain in the plans that he had already laid out. But he has that opportunity, and it's a real opportunity. The same thing happens with Saruman. Frodo gives him an opportunity to be redeemed. Go, be about your business. We're not, even after he comes in, takes over the Shire, does all this terrible stuff, digs up, Sam's dad's house, all of these horrific things, Frodo's still willing to give him another chance, to say, go your way. Right? Gandalf tries to do the same thing earlier on when the Ents attack Orthanc and they show up and it's all flooded and all these things. And again, Saruman simply chooses not to take it. But Tolkien makes it very clear that redemption is possible and that it's a choice. We have to choose to receive it. And it is something that's received, right? It's not something that you choose out of your own will. It's something that has to be gifted, but that it's already been gifted to everyone and they have to choose to receive it. And in those two cases, the characters don't choose to receive that gift. They reject the gift. Saruman's very explicit about that, saying, I reject you and your pity. And that ultimately leads to his demise.